Today we're going to start talking about fibers. What is, for the EVLA system, what is fiber optic? How does it work? But most importantly, how to take care of them. But I think before we start that, you kind of need to know what a fiber is. A fiber is actually a optic thread in our case because it's a single fiber. It's not a whole cable, just one. It's made of a thread of untinted clear glass, and then it's encased in plastic. Right here we have, you can see the drawing, it's got the glass coming through, the plastic is here, there's a sheath. And then what happens is we use it to transmit light of a high frequency through to the very end. And at the very end, that energy comes out as heat, which then cauterizes the vein as it's being pulled back out. So it's really important, for example, that energy, it's 20,000 cycles thereabouts at the end of the fiber is the light that's being generated. And let me take a step to this way. It's actually a laser. What is a laser? Laser is nothing more than a major light bulb. Super bright light. It comes through a crucible, which just focuses that light. It picks out the strongest part of the beam. Then it hits a lens. And the lens, sometimes there's a mirror, it's got a coating on it, then it changes the angle, goes through, it almost looks like a hard contact lens. It's got a coating on it. Then the fiber hooks to the very end of that. It shoots that light out. It's 20,000 cycles of light. If there's a speck of dirt inside where that connection is, that's going to bounce back and it burns a spot on the lens or on the coating of the lens. What happens then is that lens can't generate the light to come through. The generator is still generating it, but the light isn't coming through. So instead of getting a 20,000 at the end of the fiber, you're only going to get some variation, could be down to 15,000. You think it's working at 100%, it's not. And therefore we have a patient that's not getting proper care. So how do we stop that? How do we make sure that? It comes to the cleaning and how we take care of our fibers. The first thing that happens is on the very end, there is the SMA. That's the part that attaches to the machine. I'm going to pull this out of this little bag here. This is the SMA. This is the part that attaches to the machine. There's a little black cap, sometimes colored, whatever, it doesn't matter, it's a cap. That needs to be protected at all times. If it's not attached to a machine, it must have a cap on it. The reason for that is at the very end of this, there's a tiny, tiny little hole. It's the diameter of the fiber, and it gets a speck of dust on it. It will then bounce back and burn that lens. It also renders the fiber useless. So in a multi-use situation, it doesn't matter. This fiber has 4 uses left on it. We can't use it because it has, in this case, this one has blood on it. When somebody took it off the machine, they didn't cap it right away, and a drop of blood got splashed on it. So the best way to ensure that you have a good fiber is through the cleaning and the care of the fiber. So before I go into that, the cleaning process, there's a couple more things that I need to share with you. First off, safety glasses. We're dealing with a very small fiber of clear glass. If a piece of this, a shard of this breaks off and gets in your eye, we aren't going to be able to see it. And worse yet, you might cause permanent damage to your eye. So let's wear the safety glasses at all times when you're handling these. The finer the fiber, the easier it is to damage it. So the other thing that happens is I've noticed and I've seen people take and kind of wrap them around their fingers. Well, you really shouldn't wrap a fiber any tighter than about a 5 or a 6-inch loop. Anything tighter than that, you run the risk of fracturing the glass inside. As soon as you fracture the glass inside, the wavelengths, the light, is going to start bouncing back and forth, and the next thing you know, you've got reduced emissions. So, once again, the protective cap on the SMA is important, it's critical. And then there's a term that we're going to use, it's called cleaving. Cleaving is not cleaving as in a meat cutter cleaving. Cleaving is basically a scratch and crack. Okay, so there are several steps in the cleaning process, and the very first step is to take a sponge, and we're going to very quickly clean it. You might need a cavi wipe to clean the SMA. Don't submerge this. Don't get it all soapy. You just wipe it off, and then you can use a soap sponge if you want. Clean this off. Once you've got the fiber clean to that point, then obviously you can go back to work. Now, I'm not wearing a pair of gloves right now in this demonstration because this fiber's been cleaned many times. So most of you or all of you should be wearing a pair of gloves while you're doing this. So now, the next step. Once you've done that, we have created a new machine. It's not very big, very easy to use. We're making it as simple as we can. It's a microscope, and it's used to be able to check your fiber to make sure there is no dirt in the SMA. You'll be able to set it in. It slides right in. It'll hold on to it by itself. And you take the tag end. That's the end that actually goes into the patient. We call it a tag end. And you just need to generate a little bit of light. This thing has a little light switch on it. You don't have to stick it in the light, just next to it. Just hold it with your thumb. There's a focus knob, and you can look through. And what you're going to see is whether there's anything injuring or in the way or blocking a piece of dirt or dust. It's quite an amazing thing when you see it. This particular one has a spot of blood in it. So if you see a spot of blood or you see a speck of dirt in it, this fiber is now rendered useless. There's no point in going forward. In this case, I'm going to use it as a demonstration piece though. So, and then what's going to happen, so what happens is, say it's past this stage, we're okay. The next thing to do is to desheath it. You all have the sheathing tool. You're familiar with that. Rebecca will be showing you that. And then there's going to be the light cleave. Now this is where it gets critical on the cleaving. Cleaving is nice and light. It's just a light scratch. So you'll see here that little black spot. Just scratch it at the top and then you break it away. You don't break it up. If you do a heavy cleave, it's like you're crushing the glass and you break it the other way, you're going to get this little shard. That light coming out of there is going to bounce up. It could bounce sideways. It could go everywhere, but it's going to reduce what's happening. The cleave being so heavy is going to give you another refraction of the light, and you're going to lose all the power. So the cleaving takes a little bit of practice. Once you've done the cleave, then we're going to go into, you can test it. You hook it to the machine. You turn it on for the test mode, you'll be able to see an image. Now that image is going to look, it's going to have what we call a comet tail. So the comet tail is going to look like this. Now this one here is green, ours happen to be red, doesn't matter, it's still a comet tail. You'll be able to see this, you'll have a nice clean circle with a comet tail. If you don't have that and you have a scattered, like this one, it's all scattered around, it tells you probably have a bad cleave. Just go back and cleave off another 1/4 of an inch. You don't have to cleave a lot. Make a new cleave, light scratch, break it away. Check it again. You'll find that you'll get a nice clean circle with just a little bit of a comet tail in it, and then you can give it a power shot and it'll either burn on that tongue depressor, or if you have the Cool Touch machine, it'll generate and it'll give you a nice high reading. If you don't like the reading the Cool Touch machine gives you, say for example you get a 4.3, re-cleave it and test it again, and you might find that you're going to get all the way up to like a 5.2 or 5.3. It's possible to consistently get 5.2s and 5.3s. What that means is that fiber is now allowing the very large amount of that energy to get to the end, which gives a much better patient treatment. So from this point now, we're going to watch the actual cleaning process go down.